Welcome, everybody, back to There Will Be Bets. I am your host, Cole Oxane, and joined for the first time in a little bit by both of my co-hosts yet again, Jake LaSalle and Drew LaSalle. Jake is back from his honeymoon across the world. He's ready to dive into the NBA, and that's our full focus here on today's episode. College basketball is behind us. We'll wrap up that here in a second. We can finish the final results between the contest Drew and I had going on there. It's Masters weekend. The final round is going on as we record this. We'll see if any of Drew's plays can take at least a little bit of a movement up the leaderboard to have a respectable ending for him and his clips this week. We touched on a little baseball. I tried my hand at some baseball picks this week. It's been real rough sailing for us heading into this weird weekend where there's nothing going on. But we have NBA playoffs coming up. The play-in is this week. We're going to break all of that stuff down. We'll touch on a couple of other things throughout the podcast here. But first and foremost, guys, how are we feeling? Jake, welcome back. Are you excited, ready to go? It's finally watchable NBA season. How are we feeling?
Yeah, no, very excited. Finally, we get to the point where there actually will be some defense and no tanking, and people might actually play the whole game. So might be interesting to watch again.
Yeah, awesome. And then, Drew, how are we feeling? You are coming back off of what is technically a win. I know we kind of touched on it last week. I gave you an out to beat me in the March Madness competition. It came through for you. UConn managed to cover and not win that game, and that was a gross game that stayed under. So you're the official March Madness champion here on the podcast. How are you feeling this week?
Yeah, waiting for the crown to come in the mail. Haven't seen that come through yet, but I will say the read on that game was spot on. The only way that UConn was going to stay in was grimy, slow. Michigan has a terrible night from three. That's exactly what happened. Did that Mullins banked in three save me? Some may be saying that, but the under was never in doubt. That was a disgusting game offensively, and I really thought there was some pockets, and we won't go too deep into it, but I thought UConn had a chance to win that game at different moments. I think there were some really questionable pick and roll defense decisions in a couple situations late in the game that gave Cadeau pretty easy lay-ins, but yeah, happy to pull out the contest. We both went on a bit of a cold stretch through the Elite Eight and Final Four, but a de facto crown for myself, yes.
Yeah, definitely limped across the finish line. Elliot Cadeau, probably mentioning him, probably the guy having the best week of anyone on planet Earth this week with winning the national title, getting paid off NIL, stealing the most outstanding player because of Yaxel not being able to really do anything, with his injury. So that guy's living large. Drew, I don't have a crown. I might go to like Burger King, see if I can get you a Burger King crown and mail it to you or something like that. But I feel like maybe that's one of those you can have the title, but you have not earned the rank type of situation. So we'll see how it goes next year. Maybe if Jake's around for March Madness next year, we can have a three-way competition and see how that goes. But that's March Madness for you. Like we said, we're on to better things. Maybe not better things, but we're on to new things, the NBA.
Definitely not better.
And so we're gonna talk all of that today. One other topic we wanted to touch on real quick, Drew. I know you're the one that originally brought it up, and we're all kind of perplexed by it. It's kind of an NBA and college basketball topic, but news out of the college basketball world. UNC has a new head coach. It's not Billy Donovan. It's not Tommy Lloyd. It's not Dusty May. It's not Jay Wright. It's not anyone that you would have ever expected, to be honest. It's Mike Malone, former Denver Nuggets head coach and now North Carolina head coach. Can anyone help me make sense of this? Because I have no sense to make of this.
His daughter plays volleyball at North Carolina, so I think they look at it like they're getting like a 20,000 K per year discount on a coach. Maybe is how they're seeing that for 2 more years. I'd say this is like weirdly more of an NBA topic than a college basketball topic. This guy hasn't coached at the college ranks, I think, in 25 years, where he was at, I believe, Providence and Manhattan as an assistant. Never been a head coach in college. So yeah, a little bit of a step up to what I think we can characterize now as kind of a fading blue blood. I don't really know where North Carolina is going from here. The ACC has been down really the last several seasons. It's a Big 10 and Big 12 world that we're living in, and we got a couple in the Big East that make it a little relevant there. But really sad hire. I assume Brad Stevens received multiple calls and firmly said no. Billy Donovan, I can only imagine, is going to be getting a promotion in Chicago to run that franchise further into the ground as their de facto player personnel / head coach. I don't know how you land on Mike Malone as your guy, but good luck, North Carolina. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the big news here, Jake, the Cats, despite the sad exit in the Final Four, they keep Tommy Lloyd, so you got to be happy. Tommy Lloyd, again, another big winner in all of everything that's occurred of not having to take that sad job, gets a pay raise, doesn't have a boss anymore. And again, I think this kind of proves also that the NBA in general is moving on to a new era of coaches because Mike Malone won a title not that long ago and was not even considering trying to get a new job this year, which means I think that his style of coaching has gone by the wayside in the NBA, which makes it a really interesting fit here. Jake, does this kind of feel like, I know he's not the same prestige, but like it kind of feels like North Carolina's just grasping at straws, like the Bill Belichick hire, this hire, like none of these are going to work out right. Bringing these pros who don't understand the college game and also aren't great at handling the NIL thing, I think this is a disaster waiting to happen. I don't know if you have any thoughts before we wrap up.
Yeah, no, honestly, for a second, I forgot about the Bill Belichick too. It's some interesting decisions in UNC over the past year. I feel like they just, yeah, maybe they're just doing it as a publicity to, sell tickets and have people watch. It's like, oh, I'll watch the Bill Belichick or the Mike Malone just to watch them, even if they're bad. Or maybe they want them to be bad. Like you tuned into UNC games when Belichick was there because you're like, I kind of want to see the, sinking of the ship.
Yeah, I think it's this weird situation where like people are trying to act like college and the pros are getting more similar, so therefore there needs to be more crossover with the whole bringing in GMs and managing budgets and all of this stuff. But I just don't get it. I really don't. I guess maybe as those who saw on Twitter, it's a player development thing. Mike Malone apparently developed every good player under the sun in the NBA, so maybe that's why they're bringing him in. I don't know. It's one of the more preposterous hires for, like Drew said. I don't know if I'd call him fading. They have won and made title games recently, but like this is North Carolina, and to see them, this is the type of move you would see out of a much sadder, much lesser program. So I don't know. It's weird. We'll see how it plays out. Again, we're gonna put the bow on college basketball here, but we couldn't help but mention it given how just preposterous it was this week. So that's kind of our quick thoughts on that.
Comparing Mike Malone from a TV viewership perspective to Bill Belichick might be one of the crazier takes that has been uttered on this podcast. Mike Malone has zero visibility, sex appeal, anything. Bill Belichick's dating a 24-year-old and has won 6 Super Bowls. Mike Malone has been out of coaching for a couple seasons. Like, whatever. Yeah, let's move on.
I don't know. It wasn't the comparison of the media network. It was more of just the obscure things to just bring attention to the program I was pointing out.
This is also North Carolina basketball. Like, this is a esteemed Dean Smith, Roy Williams, like litany of winning, and we're now shrunk down to a guy that got fired from his NBA job, probably wrongfully so, but really sad times falling on Chapel Hill. Yeah.
Woof. All right, that's enough on that. We'll leave that there for now. The one other topic we're going to touch on before we jump into breaking down the games is obviously today, Sunday, is the final day of the regular season, and there's been a lot of discourse about the NBA MVP. And I know, Jake, you have some thoughts. I've got some thoughts. Some of us are influenced by futures we placed at the beginning of the season. But by all accounts, it looks like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be your back-to-back MVP. Unless something crazy happens with the voting, that's who it's going to be. You saw Luka Doncic have a push before he got hurt. Obviously, I think he fell one short of the injury line anyway, so technically he's not eligible to win the award because I think he hit 64 games. But you have Wemby out there. You still have the Jokic of it all, who's an insane player. I know Cade Cunningham was thrown out there before he got hurt. There was a lot of storyline going on because basically Shai, most of the season, has been the wire-to-wire leader, and people always like to try and find somebody else to take it. In my opinion, I think Shai is the rightful MVP. I really do. Jake, I know you have some different thoughts, and again, I might be a little biased because I have a Shai future, but I think he's the rightful MVP. But who would you pick to be the MVP, Jake, if you were going to?
Obviously, like you said, Luka can't win because of the whole games thing. I thought he was honestly a good in contention before he got injured because, like, if you look at the stats, Luka has better stats across the board. He doesn't play on as good of a team, and yet he drove his team to be like in the 3 seed running, like a top team in the West. So I thought he had a good argument. I think Wemby has, in my opinion, the best argument. I think his team is not as good overall as the Thunder, but he pushes them forward more. And the whole argument is like, oh, Shea is the most dominant and the most dominant team, and the Spurs are a game behind, 2 games behind. So it's not like they're far and away like above the Spurs. And I feel like Wemby is a bigger difference maker than Shea is. I mean, obviously Shea is fantastic. But I personally think the problem is the NBA will select a few players at the beginning of the year, like that are just the best players, like Shea and Jokic, and then they'll just be like, unless somebody drastically changes like something over the course of the season, they're just not going to change their mind. And I feel like that's kind of what we're seeing.
I have the same SGA future that Cole does, but just watching Wemby, like, this is a different game that he's playing than everybody else in the league, and impact both ways. Like, he can do pretty much everything that, like, you look at like Luka, elite ball handler, 3-point shooting, distributing. Wemby can do all of that. You look at like the most elite center in the league. I'm not the biggest Embiid fan, but like block scoring, facilitating out of the low block, ISO, Wemby can do all of that. Oh, on top of that, he's far and away the best defender in the NBA. Like, there's really not a comparable player to what the impact that Wembanyama has on any given night. So probably I would say like the end of the SGA run of MVPs, maybe. I don't see a world where if Wemby's playing 65 healthy games next season that he's not winning the MVP. But unfortunately, yeah, it seems like set in stone with SGA.
If I could place a future right now for next year's MVP, I will take Wemby at whatever odds you can give me. I think the narrative plays a big part in what happens with MVP, and I think Wemby is going to be crowned next year because obviously he hasn't been able to win his Defensive Player of the Year yet because of the injury. They're going to give him that this year. Obviously, it's well deserved, so he's going to get that. He's first team All-NBA. All that stuff is going to come his way. So the one thing that'll be missing will be the MVP, and they just will want to crown him the face of the league moving forward. So I think that is absolutely going to be the case next year. And every year that the Thunder are still dominant, which is probably not going to stop next year. I mean, they're probably going to be in contention for the 1 seed again next year. Every year we saw it with LeBron, we saw it with Kobe, we saw it with every other guy, Michael Jordan, every other dominant player in the league. Eventually the narrative gets tired and you don't want to give it to the same guys every year. It's even hurt guys like Jokic and Giannis more recently, where you just don't want to keep giving the award to the same guy every year. So yeah, I think it's going to be Wemby's award moving forward. But again, I do think this year the efficiency rating and the high level of consistency that Shea brings, it's not like he's unjustified. Like, that's the thing, is I don't think this is some crime against Wemby. I also think Jokic is being lost in all of this. Jokic, like, somehow quietly had maybe the best offensive season we've ever seen besides Steph Curry when he won his first MVP. Like, what he's doing is insane, and the way he's averaging essentially a triple-double or better this entire season. And so I think we're also just kind of numb to the fact that guys are just, again, scoring's up on a star player basis. There's more possessions, there's more 3-point shooting, so I get that some things are skewed, but like this year was one of the more insane high performance years we've ever seen. Like, Jaylen Brown is not even being spoken about, and what he did this year was incredible in Jason Tatum's absence. Like, that's another guy who in any other year would probably be in the running. Same with Cade Cunningham. Like, he deserved some of the recognition he was getting for what he's done with the Pistons, but in the end, had he made the injury barrier, he wouldn't have been considered either. So I think that's my takeaway on this. I don't think Jake's wrong. I just think that it's okay to say that Shea is a rightful winner. Now, again, maybe it was kind of this award was settled in January and Wemby has come on late. Maybe that's kind of the case, but that is also the nature of the whole MVP thing. And again, we can debate what MVP really means.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, is all awards in sports. It's like they have a set of players that they just pick for an award at the beginning of the season. If they just put up a half decent season, they're going to choose from that handful. And then, like, same thing at the midpoint of the season. They might add a few extra players. The same thing we see in the NFL and all those things. It's like, there's already a narrative. It doesn't matter how amazing you are. Like, you just sometimes won't win.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at it too, the one difference between like the NFL, for example, is like it's such a small sample size of games. 1 or 2 bad games can tank. I mean, we almost saw it with Matthew Stafford this year, where like he had a bad game down the stretch and it was a question if he was going to win. In the NBA, there's so many games that these guys are just too good. Like, you would have to go on a weeks long stinker to not be in the contention anymore if you're a guy like Shea or a guy like Wemby or any of these people. So like that's the other thing is it's like you're right. There are going into the season 4 names that can win an MVP. And unfortunately, because of the way basketball works, it's the same 4 names year after year until a generational talent like Wemby inserts himself into the conversation. So that's the other problem. Is you're right. Next year, your 4 MVP contenders are going to be Shea, Wemby, Jokic, Luka, and then we'll see what happens with Giannis. He's like the one other guy I would throw in that list. And then maybe somebody rises, right? Like a Kate Cunningham or a someone of that level, or again, a Jaylen Brown type player. But yeah, it's a short list. And that's the problem is it's a small group and it's never going to be anyone else. It takes a meteoric rise to enter that conversation.
Yeah, and like I was gonna say, like you might also see the same thing like Wemby, who like it's gonna take a few years to get in that pool of conversation. Same thing with like Cooper Flag or Con Knipple or something like that. Maybe next year or 2 years from now, we're having this same conversation where it's like, oh, maybe they could have won, but they weren't in that pool at the beginning of the season, and they'll be in it next year. It just
Yeah, I think some of the awards that are more interesting to follow are the lesser awards, like because there's a lot more variance to them. Like Sixth Man's actually a really interesting award, and Most Improved Player has become a very interesting award to see how the media treats that one. So I think when you're like following those, but those are more of like the sicko awards anyway, because who really cares who the most improved of the Sixth Man award is? But those are ones where I think there's a lot more justification to like the impact they're making. But it is MVP. It's a big topic. So those are kind of our thoughts on that. Again, we think Shea is. Again, the betting odds are telling you, the media pretty much just told you it's probably going to be Shea unless something crazy happens. So that would at least benefit some of us here on the pod. But otherwise, I don't think Jake's wrong. I think Victor Wembanyama is just, it's a matter of time. It's not if, it's when at this point for him on MVP. That's kind of the big takeaway I've got there. All right, so now we're going to jump into the play-in and the playoffs. It's enough about MVP. We're going to jump into what we've got coming up. So obviously the playoffs aren't 100% set yet. Again, we're recording here on Sunday. There's a ton of giant spreads thanks to all these teams that don't want to win and teams that need to win and everything like that. So if everything holds the way it's supposed to, I think other than the Heat-Hawks game today, every one of these matchups that implicates teams is a 10-plus point spread, or at least close to it. So we're going to go off of some assumptions, and we're going to break everything down. But first, as always, because, we have to do it, we're going to have a couple of stats and trends that specifically apply to the play-in and the first round we want to give out real quick. We'll touch on them. These, again, are the types of stats that you can use not only across the first round, but some of them apply to the whole playoff. So we'll break them down real quick. First and foremost, this is just, we talked about it with March Madness in the Final Four, but the NBA is where this stat comes true the most, is that teams that win also cover, and vice versa. So teams that cover also win. So if you're betting an underdog in the NBA playoffs and they are going to cover the spread, chances are they will win outright as well. And then vice versa. If you're betting a favorite and you lay the points, they're probably going to cover those points when they win. And the data backs this up. So the game winner is 376, 45 and 6 against the spread. That's 89.3%, almost 90%. So 9 out of every 10 times teams play a game in the NBA playoffs the last 5 seasons, they will cover and they will win. That means if you like a dog, you need to consider putting a portion of your bet on the money line. And if you are betting a favorite, do not bother with the chalk, taking small money lines, trying to put them in parlays. Use the spread. The chances are they're going to cover when they win that game. That goes for the entire playoff. So that's just a blanket number. Looking at the first round in specific, first round home teams, this is no news to anyone. Home court advantage matters, especially when there's a better team involved. But home teams have gone 63 and 25 straight up. So again, just winning the game, they're going to take care of business at home. And then they're also 48 and 40 against the spread, which is 54.5%, so slightly over the Mendoza line. So home teams, when in doubt, look the home team's way is pretty much what that means. And then what's even more interesting is most people like to believe in like the zigzag, the back and forth theory in the playoffs, right? But home teams that win game 1 in a first round series are actually 35 and 10 straight up, and they're 31 and 14 against the spread. So that's 68.9% since 2016 when they play in game 2. So what that tells you is that whole back and forth thing doesn't apply in the first round. That's later in the playoffs when the teams are a little bit more even, especially because you can get some better teams playing some lesser teams. If a team takes care of business at home in game 1, chances are they're going to do the same thing in game 2, especially when you're talking about these bigger teams. And then the final piece I want to throw in there for everybody is that big favorites tend to roll in the first round. They're favored by a lot for a reason, because we have a large sample size over the year that proves they're the better team. Since 2014, first round favorites of 8.5 or more are 89 and 14 straight up. No duh there. Obviously, they're huge favorites. But they are 62 and 41 against the spread. That's 60.2%. So these big favorites are going to roll. So teams like OKC, teams like the Spurs, teams like the Celtics, the Pistons, all of these high-seeded teams that are likely to be favored by 8.5 or more points, especially because they'll be playing on the road where they could be favored by that much as well, means there's a lot of opportunities to play on these teams. So those are kind of the trends I want to throw out there. You guys have any thoughts on any of these that either like kind of make you think a different way or are going to have you really looking for certain spots come the first round or even the whole playoffs?
Is that the first number you said with the 376-45 and 6 against the spread? Is that the whole playoffs or the first round?
It's the whole playoffs. So that is just strictly NBA playoffs.
Based on what you're saying, is in the first round 62-41 against the spread, which means past the first round, it's like 98% that the team that won covered the spread.
Yeah, I'd have to crunch the exact numbers, but I think you're pretty much close. But yeah, that's literally what these numbers say, is because as the spreads get smaller, the chances of winning and covering get closer.
So that's an interesting thing to think about as you progress through the play. It's like, if you're going to take an underdog, they're probably winning that game in the second or third.
I was just going to say,
just
round. Take the money line as opposed to the spread.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure I didn't do an ROI calculation on this because that would just take a little bit too much time, so I apologize on that one, guys. But if you did the ROI calculation, I guarantee what it would prove to you is that the method to play that is, unless it's a really large number where you just don't think, but even then, the ROI is going to be crazy on some of those big outright wins, is that very rarely, especially after the first round, do you see sweeps, that there's going to be value on playing the money lines on those dogs that you like. Even if you do it game after game after game and you're getting a high plus number, chances are you're coming out on top as long as you consistently take it. And then, I mean, obviously what it proves too is same thing, is when you like a team and you're like, do I want to lay the points? Like, again, chances are they're just going to cover them because this is the NBA. This isn't college where fluky crap happens. Guys make their free throws in the NBA. You know, guys execute better. There's more possessions. Like, yeah, that's what it's telling you, is that basically you're not picking spreads in the playoffs. That number's just there because it's the way that betting works, and they're not going to change it.
Yeah. No, that does make sense. And obviously in the first round, you got, bigger differences in teams. So you're going to get bigger spreads. That's when most of the covering will happen, and like winning and not covering will happen.
Yeah. And I mean, then obviously you can take into consideration situations too, where like, big favorites, right? So for those first two games at home, let's say they're 8.5 point favorites, you probably just hammer them on the first two games. Then in like the desperation game 3, then maybe that's when you flip and just throw a little sprinkle on the money line of the team coming back home, right? In like what you would consider a positive situation. Like that would probably be the smart way to play some of those series if you're going to take these stats and kind of roll with them just more large scale. So those are the trends, guys. We just want to throw those out. We'll reference a couple of other smaller statistics as we break down the rest of the games, but just to have those in your back pocket. Again, that one that lasts over the whole course of the playoffs is the most important one there, but then those other ones to take into consideration just as you're handicapping, especially game by game in a series, keep those in mind, especially considering that one about the home teams after they win game 1 don't get caught up in the whole yin yang, vice versa type betting scenario that some people just think is automatic. All right, guys. Well, if you're enjoying the video so far, please go ahead, drop a like on the video, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell as well so you get notified whenever we put out videos. We're going to be breaking down the NBA playoffs every week until the end of it in June. So you're going to want to stay here to get all of our thoughts on every series as they continue through, and we'll give our picks, our previews, all that good stuff all the way through that, coming in June. So there's a ton of stuff coming down the pipe the next 2 months. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And then also make sure you stay tuned to our social media pages. We're everywhere at There Will Be Bets for our daily picks and content, especially between one episode and another. Sometimes series are going to change or things are going to change for game time. So we're going to be putting out our daily picks kind of like we have been up to this point. So if you want to stay really in tune and get our up-to-date thoughts, that's where you're going to want to be as well. So check us out there if you haven't already. All right, so hopping into the play-in games first. We're going off of the most likely outcomes like we said at the top of the show. There's a lot of big spreads that are going to be deciding what happens here. These are all subject to change. Some of these are set in stone. We'll mention them when they are. Some of them are most likely. We'll mention those to come out of it too. First play-in game is going to be Tuesday. It's going to be the East play-in. It's looking like it's going to be Magic versus Sixers. Now, again, it could be hosted by one team versus the other. Some other weird stuff could happen, and maybe it's not that matchup. We're under the assumption it's going to be the Magic versus the Sixers. Again, chances are it'll be the Magic hosting the Sixers. But the way we're looking at this series is kind of a toss-up between these two teams, and there's an element here that I know Drew's going to mention, but Joel Embiid, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Do the Sixers want the 7 seed or do they want the 8 seed? Are they trying to hunt the Pistons? I don't really know what's going on. To be honest with you, this is the one play-in matchup I have just no feel on. I've been high on both of these teams all year, and they continue to try and prove me wrong. So I don't really know where to go. I'll talk more about when we get to the series matchup, how I want to play either winner of this game in their future series. But what do you guys think of this game? Because I got nothing.
Yeah, you brought up the Embiid injury. There's a lot of uncertainty with the Sixers. I think potentially the better team, certainly offensively, but I don't really have a strong feel with this. I don't know what the number is going to be. Assume maybe Embiid's out, and they are trying to get a matchup with the Hornets or the Heat for a chance to play the Pistons instead of the Celtics. But no real feel for this one. I'd probably lean Magic if Embiid is not playing.
Yeah, same thing as you guys are saying. I would say like in general, I'd probably lean the Magic. I think that the Sixers could be thinking that maybe if we just rest Embiid, give him one more day, and they probably would prefer the matchup anyways against the Pistons over the Celtics. But it's like if Embiid does play, I think it's a toss-up game. Obviously, if he doesn't, I think the Magic have an easy win. Not an easy win, but like I think they're definitely the favorite if he doesn't play. But either way, I would still lean the Magic. I think Embiid coming off the injury might be a little slow. Might not be full minutes. They might just be like if he does play on a little restriction so that he can be in full force in the next game. So that would be my lean, but no true decisive lean.
I think if I had to go anywhere in this game, I'm probably going to look under the total because the Magic in general tend to be a skewing under team. They're a little bit better on defense. They're not as efficient on offense, especially when they start to play like that isolation stuff through Paolo late in games. It gets really inefficient really fast. And the Sixers are not like a high 3-point volume rate, especially if they're playing through Embiid, if he does play. They're not a high 3-point volume rate. And, Paul George has been playing really well, but Paul George is at his best playing in the mid-range. And it's playoff basketball. We see the totals tend to drop down for a reason. This is not win or go home, but for some of these teams, depending on what they want in these situations, is very crucial. So they're going to slow the game down. They're going to play at pace. That's probably how I'd look at this game if I was going to play it. But again, trying to pick a winner, I don't know. These teams, they have so many flaws. Both of them, I see the potential, but that's like the most dangerous word in sports, especially when you're trying to handicap things. You can't bank on potential. So I think I'm kind of in line with you guys. I would lean Magic, probably either way. Even if Embiid plays, I think I would lean Magic. I think I like the defensive matchup just enough. But yeah, I'd look under the total, but I real no strong feel in this one. I have a much stronger feeling in a couple of these other playing games. So any other thoughts on this one, or do we kind of just want to leave this as is, and we'll touch on these teams when we get to the series? So then moving on to what will be your second play-in game, the other 7 versus 8 matchup, the one out west. This one, the Suns are locked into the 7th seed, so it will be the Suns hosting this game. And again, the most likely outcome here is going to be the 8-seeded Trailblazers. Now, this one, it looks like we have a little bit of varying consensus on how this game will go. I'll give a little bit of my overview thoughts first here. I think one interesting fact, and we didn't mention it in this preview for the Magic, but a 7 seed has never lost a play-in game. I do want to throw that out there. I know we forgot to mention it with them, but a 7 seed has never lost a play-in game, and I think the Suns are going to take care of business here. Now, we'll see what the spread is, but given the stats we covered at the beginning of the show, I'm probably going to like the Suns to cover whatever the number is. I think they're the better team. I think they're a solid defensive team. I think this Trailblazers team has kind of outplayed their potential all year. I just like Denny Advia is fine. Donovan Clingan can be a problem inside, but the Suns' defensive scheme, and I think having a guy like Booker, while he's not going to win you playoff series necessarily, can help you win a one-game sample size like this. They're familiar with each other because they've had to play each other due to being in the same conference. I like the Suns in this matchup. I think having Dylan Brooks back, having Grayson Allen back, everybody looks healthy. I think they're going to take care of business. I think they're just the better team. They've been really good against the spread at home. I'm going to be taking the Suns in this game. But Drew, I know you disagree. Jake, you can't tend to more agree with me. Drew, I'd love to hear the Blazers case. And then Jake, I guess you kind of can break the tie on that one.
Yeah, I mean, just looking back a little bit through the matchups, they played 3 times this year. Suns took 2 of 3. The third game that Portland did win, Booker didn't play, and it was maybe one of the most disgusting box scores I've ever seen. I think 92-77 was the final for that third matchup. But lean Blazers here. Yeah, I just think there's a little bit more offensive firepower for the Blazers. I think ultimately will come down to like who can control the pace in this game. Suns obviously want to slow things down a little bit more. I do think Brooks matches up well with Avila and maybe a couple other different switches that you might see throughout the game. But yeah, I'll lean Blazers here a little bit, just seeing like how firm you guys were on the Suns. I'll go against the grain on this one.
I really like the Suns in this matchup. We've talked about it towards the end of the season before, we switched over to college basketball. The Suns are a pretty good defensive team. They're a big trying team. They got a lot of guys that are big triers, and in a 1-game sample in the playoffs, bring out all the switches, all the stops on defense. I think that I just like the matchup that they can play on the defensive side of the ball, and I just, like we said in the last one, a lot of NBA games in the playoffs tend to go under, especially the early games, because more defense is being played. People are not used to it. Less fouling is called because refs are a little bit more tight on the whistle. So I do like the Suns' chances in a 1-game sample size of that.
Yeah, just to back up a little bit more on the Suns, not to try and pile on Drew's pick here, but just I was talking about how good they've been against the spread this season. So I think they're the second best team against the spread in all of the NBA. At least from when I wrote down my notes here previously this week. But they're overall 47-33 against the spread. They've actually been 29-9 as a favorite against the spread, which is kind of crazy to me. But I think that perfectly marks what the 7 seed should be, which is they beat all the teams below them and they take care of business. They can't really punch above their weight class. Is kind of what that tells me. Is most of their ATS losses are coming when they're a dog. And then they've actually been really good at home too. They're 23-17-1 against the spread at home. So I kind of like all those, again, in a 1-game sample size. Again, given that, as we said at the top of the show, the winner is usually covering, I'm guessing the spread lands within about a possession or so. I like the chances here. I get where Drew's coming from. It's going to be a popular pick. It'll be a very public side. Again, that doesn't necessarily scare me away from it. But I just think that, again, the 7 seeds have never lost. It feels too obvious is kind of what I'm getting at, I guess. And so I can see Drew's point here.
That's exactly where I'm coming from. Correct. Yeah. Like what idiot would bet on the Trailblazers is the feeling I get looking at this game.
Yeah, that
what
is very
idiot
fair.
me would go
I'm that
against the
idiot.
grain.
All right, well, Drew says he's the idiot. He'll take the Blazers there. We'll see. Again, it might not be the Trailblazers. It looks like it's going to be the Trailblazers based on everything's going to play out. So we'll jump to Wednesday, 2 more of the play-in games. Now, these are kind of the more important ones because the losers of those 2 games that we just talked about will have to play the winner of these 2 play-in games. And so, obviously, again, we're not going to sit here and speculate on all the possible outcomes there. We're just going to talk about teams. And I guess we can also mention in any of these if we favor any of these teams to win both of their games, if we like the idea of them winning in this game and then beating one of those 8 or 7 seeds as well. So first up is the Eastern one. It's Wednesday. It's the Hornets versus the Heat. That one is pretty much locked in. The only thing that can possibly change today is who hosts that game. And that does feel kind of important given that Miami's involved and it's a house of horrors come the playoff time. So that could be important. But if the chalk holds today, it should be the Hornets hosting the Heat. Jake, we've been on Hornets Hive all year. Like that's been this podcast. We are the Hornets Hive. You like the Hornets in this matchup. Why is that?
The Hornets just have a lot of offensive weapons that are very boom or bust players, and I just feel in a 1-game sample size where they're coming out to play, I feel like the offensive output of the Hornets can just overtake the Heat. You could definitely make the argument the Heat are the better team, and you'd probably be right. I just think with the talent on the offensive side of the ball that the Hornets have, I think in a 1-game sample size, it's going to come down to, do they have a good shooting night or a bad shooting night? And I tend to feel that they are going to have a better shooting night than, I would lean that they would have a better shooting night than the Heat.
So what's interesting about this matchup for me is they've played 4 times. The Heat won 3 of those matchups, which is interesting. 2 of them were obviously early in the year, in October and November when the Hornets were stinky. Like this Hornets team is a different team now than they were in October, November. So that is fair. But even if we look at their 2 recent matchups, the Heat won by 8, the Hornets blew them out by 30. So it's kind of an all over the place matchup here. I think most of my handicap comes down to just the intangibles of Eric Spoelstra is one of those coaches who, when his back is against the wall and his roster's not that great and they've underperformed most of the year, finds ways to win these games. And it's just one of those places where it just feels like that's what's going to happen. Is young teams tend to have to take their lumps before they're ready. This Hornets team is a super promising young team. We talked about it a while back that we think they're like a piece or 2 away from really being a threat in the East. This feels like an earn your stripes young man type of game where it's going to be nasty, ugly, like a 98, 95 kind of game. Like Hornets maybe struggle to shoot the ball a little bit. You're right that if like both teams play their A game, the Hornets A game is way better than the Heat A game. But if this is playing B game, C game, I think it could get nasty, and Eric Spoelstra could find a way to win this game. So that's kind of why I'm going to lean the Heat, unfortunately. I love the Hornets. I want to see them make the playoffs. I have a monetary investment in them making the playoffs, but it just feels like it's going to kind of go out sad. Drew, is that kind of what you're thinking too, or do you have a different take?
Yeah, I'm in line with you. I don't have the same monetary commitment to the Hornets, but I do think from a viewing standpoint, much more exciting team with the different young players they have. But I lean towards the experience of Spoelstra, and I think the really interesting matchup in this game is Diabate and maybe whoever else they stick on Jaquez. In the one game, I'll kind of remove the two games that they had previously, like early in the season. In the game, the Heat got the better of them. Both games were decided in the fourth quarter. Miami blew them out in the fourth quarter in the first one. Hornets blew them out in the second game in the fourth quarter in the second game. But Jaquez was the difference between the two. He had a huge game in the first one, did nothing in the second one. So if you can kind of contain Jaquez, I know he's technically the sixth man and coming off the bench, but oftentimes they'll go to him in different action on the offensive end and allow him to kind of dictate things. And I think that probably decides the game, see how they defend him.
I feel like I see your points. What I kind of feel like the earn your stripes game is the next game. I feel like it's going to be one of those like, oh, we fought, we shot really well, we earned our like going to the next round, and then they go up against the former MVP, and Joel Embiid just absolutely dominates the court, puts up like 55, and it's not even a question. Like that's what I could see this Hornets team be having, like their playoff run being like.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that. Obviously, we were talking about looking ahead a little bit. That would make a lot of sense. Honestly, even with the Magic too, because the Magic have a young core as well, but are more experienced than the Hornets. I could see that being the case too. Of just, hey, we've been here, we've done this. None of us are winning the title this year, but we're gonna add levels to this shit. Is basically what they would do. So like I could see that, but again, that's kind of also Eric Spoelstra is that type of coach where it's like you have to be able to beat a team like the Heat to ever be legitimately considered. So I don't know. You might be right. I want it to be the Hornets. It's one of those like gut feelings. I know gut feelings are a dangerous thing when it comes to handicapping, but it's just one of those gut feelings where I just expect this to be a college basketball looking game, and I'm just gonna favor the Heat in that position. Again, I think this also varies. If the Heat end up hosting this game, I'm gonna definitely lean the Heat. If it's in Charlotte, I have a little bit more faith in the Hornets. So I don't know, but again, I'd love to see the Hornets at least play one more game. Drew's 100% right. Aesthetically, the Hornets are much better to watch. The Heat are ugly and awful, and I can't stand watching Tyler Hero. So, all right, well, that'll bring us to the final play-in game, and this one is again most likely the Clippers against the Warriors. Now, the Warriors are locked into the 10 seed, so even if it ends up being the Trailblazers, the Warriors will be going on the road. I think we're all kind of in alignment on this one. This Warriors team is sad. It is a shell of what it used to be. Obviously, the Jimmy Butler injury derailed any chances they had this season, but you hate to watch the legends go out. And, like, I don't think Steph's career is done, but this is going to be one of those turning points where it's like he might have to really look in the mirror and decide, is this what he wants to keep doing year after year with the roster they've got going? Steve Kerr, he's a good coach. He's won titles, but, man, last couple of seasons, some of the decisions he makes don't make any sense to me. And in my personal opinion, on top of that, this Clippers team shouldn't have lost to the Trailblazers the other night. Like, I don't know how they let themselves lose that game in general, but I think this Clippers team is the best of the 8, 9, 10 grouping, and projecting it, I think the Clippers can win this game, and I think they can beat the Trailblazers and end up being the 8 seed is what I would think would happen. So I'm definitely going to look at the Clippers in this situation. I want no business with the Warriors. This team stinks. The only reason they're the 10 seed is everybody else in the West is tanking. Like, they're just de facto the last team that is actually still playing basketball. So, like, that's my thoughts. I got nothing else other than don't touch the Warriors with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, I agree. I think the same thing. I think the Warriors are just a sad team this year. And I just think there's not much handicap to add to this. I just think the Clippers are a better team. I think they're going to come out and take care of business. Don't know what the spread is, but you'll probably see me on the Clippers.
Yeah, Warriors have been dreadful on the road this year, 15-25 overall with one game left in the regular season. My note in our sheet was, is Steve Kerr washed? I don't know if that's a fair take. But but I will say I think like he allows Draymond Green to freelance so much on defense because of the historically great seasons he had for them. Go back and watch like the last 10 minutes of their Rockets game earlier in the week. He is just like on Mars playing defense, like helping when there's no reason to help, allowing Durant to like come off the dribble along the baseline in a couple like there are things he's doing where I can only assume that it's Draymond Green making the decisions, not Steve Kerr coaching him to make those decisions. So yeah, really like definitely a talent deficient team without Butler, but there is some defensive decisions that are being made that make me really question how much Steve Kerr is like getting through to this team.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think this is the opposite of the Heat and Spoelstra situation, where like you would theoretically think that both of these 10 seeds are like dangerous. They've got veteran players, especially the Warriors have Curry, so in any single game you would be scared of that. Not only do you just question Steve Kerr's decision making, this Clippers team is also not like a young up and coming team. Like they've got Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard has had a sneaky really good year. I know we talked about MVP earlier. I'm not saying Kawhi should have been in that conversation, but he's having a very good Kawhi Leonard year, and he's been healthier. And they're not a bad coach team. They just are kind of a so-so roster. But I think that like all of the things that you could maybe see slip a team up against the Warriors is not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I think, again, the Clippers put themselves in this position. They're going to be at least able to battle them out of it, and they're going to be looking for that matchup with the Trailblazers. But yeah, like if you're talking props in this game, I would be looking at some Kawhi overs, because I just don't think they have a great defensive matchup for Kawhi in this game either. Again, they're defensively in general, they've been very piss poor for the most part. But I'm going to be looking Clippers in a lot of ways. This might even be the type of game where you look at some alt lines. Now, I know the scary part of that is the Clippers might tail it down at the end if they are securely in. But like this could be a quit watch for the Warriors, if I'm being honest. I think it's possible.
Yeah, I was gonna say the opposite. I think Steph might pack it in if they start just like losing, and then the score just balloons.
Yeah. So that's kind of our thoughts. I think we're all in line. But all right, that'll wrap up the playing game. Now, obviously, again, our thoughts on the play and moving forward are that any of these teams could potentially be threats. These 9-10s could be threats to win that second game, but we'll see how it plays out. Again, we don't know what the matchup will be, so we're not going to cover that here. Stay tuned for the middle of the week. When those matchups get released for the Friday games, we'll give our thoughts on those coming up.
Hey guys, this is Cole, the editor here, coming in a little bit later in the day after we've recorded the episode. We recorded the episode on Sunday midday as some of the games were still wrapping up, and as we mentioned at the top of the episode, we were using speculative matchups on any of the ones that we thought would happen based on the point spread, things like that. Unfortunately, because this is the NBA, nothing's ever easy. Some of the matchups have now changed. In the Eastern Conference, we saw the 4-5 and the 3-6 flip. So now we're going to see the Knicks playing the Hawks and the Raptors playing the Cavaliers. So what we're going to do is come back and break down those two matchups, as well as these Western Conference matchups that have flipped as well. Again, those are going to be the 3-6 and the 4-5. And so we're going to come back on Thursday. We're going to break all of those down in depth, as well as touch on the play-in games, because we'll have seen the first set of play-in games we played. So we're going to come in, break down our thoughts on those, and give some updated looks for the Friday games as well, the 1 seed versus 8 seed and the 2 seed versus 7 seed series. So we're going to do that. It's going to be a bit of a bonus episode for everybody. So even better reason to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell as well. Stay tuned for that. Obviously, listen to what we have to say here in the rest of this episode. A lot of what we mentioned about these teams will still apply long term. And hey, you never know, upsets can happen maybe when you go these matchups later on, but you'll still get some good nuggets here and there for all of these series, different players we're looking at, good, bad, and different. So, you can listen to those and then come join us on Thursday. We drop that bonus episode, and we're really looking forward to breaking that down and then getting in the grind all the way through the rest of the NBA season. So enjoy the rest of the episode. Again, just coming in a little bit later to let you guys know what's going on.
But that'll jump us into the rest of the playoff series. These we're going to touch on much more generally. We're not going to try and break down the nitty-gritty, the X's and O's. We're just going to look more on like how we're going to approach this series. Again, some of these are still subject to change based on what we see on Sunday. We're going to go off of the most likely outcomes here. We'll start with the East and we'll hit the West. We'll kind of just talk about the series, highlight anything we want to highlight, how we're going to play this. Again, like I said, it's not going to be super in detail. There are great people out there who will do that for you. We're here just to look at it more from the betting angle, from people like us who are football guys first, but have an opinion on some basketball. So that's kind of how we're going to approach this too, is how we're going to be looking at the series. First and foremost will be the Pistons versus whoever the 8 seed ends up being. Again, chances are it's going to be either the Hornets or the Heat. winning that game and then probably losing to whoever loses the Sixers Magic game if it was the most likely outcome. But again, too many variables there. My real question for you guys is, should we be looking Pistons in this series, or is there going to be a legitimate case to be backing in one way or another the underdog coming out of the play-in?
I don't see a world in which the Pistons lose the series, but if it is the Magic or the Sixers, I do really like the over or the series spread, I think it's called. I do really like the series spread of the other team. But I don't see them losing. And then if it's the Hornets or the Heat, I know Drew has a Heat 2-1 against them this year, but I would honestly look at sweeps. That's just my 2 cents on that.
Just gotta be on an island again. All right, yeah. If it's the Heat, I don't think there's a non-zero chance that the Heat could beat the Pistons in the first round. Honestly, yes, they won 2 of 3 this year. All 3 were with Cade. All 3 in the third game was close as well. I just think there's a huge coaching discrepancy between the two. I'm not a huge Bickerstaff guy. This team also just operates very differently without Cade Cunningham. So I really think the Heat are live if they do get that matchup with the Pistons. If it's the Hornets, I would look sweep. I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion on this podcast, but all 3 games just belt to ass for the Pistons, and in the last one did not have Cade either. So yeah, it very matchup dependent. But if it is the Heat, I will be sprinkling a little bit on that series money line as well as the series spread.
So the team I want in this position, I want it to be the 76ers. And I've been the Pistons guy all year. But if it is the 76ers, you're going to see me on the series spread plus number. I will probably be sprinkling on that team to win the series outright. I'll be looking for other ways to play that team. I think this 76ers team with a healthy Embiid can be a problem for this Pistons roster. I think Tyrese Maxey can go toe-to-toe with Cade Cunningham. I think this healthy Paul George we've seen over the last month and a half is a problem for this Pistons defense. And I love Jalen Duren. He's one of my favorite players to watch. Joel Embiid could take him to school a little bit. And I think there's the potential that this Sixers team gives them some problems. So that's what I hope it's going to be. I see what Drew's saying with the Heat. I think I'll just stay away because that roster just disgusts me for the most part. But the Bam Adebayo thing could be a problem for Jalen Duren too. So I can see some paths, and everything Drew brought up is valid. I will probably be looking at the plus number. And again, this is someone who's been high on the Pistons all year. If it ends up being the Magic, which again, that probably is the least likely outcome here, I will probably be looking at it as well, just because I think the Magic talent-wise can match up. But I think this is going to be one of those series where the Pistons struggle a little bit. They just have not looked the same since the Cade Cunningham injury, when he plays, when he doesn't play. It looks like they're leaking a little bit of oil. I think there's a potential, especially if it's the 76ers, they could be playing against a team who's better than an 8 seed when they're healthy. I'll take my shot with it. That's probably the way I'm going to look at this, is the series plus number. Probably, again, play that multiple ways all the way up to winning the series is probably how I would look at the series if I was going to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I really don't see them losing the series. I think the Sixers would be the one that would probably be the most likely chance, just because of the talent level of the Sixers. But I do agree. I would look mostly to as the series spread number plus number.
Well, those are our thoughts there. We'll see how that plays out. Again, no guarantee of what that matchup's going to be, but those are our thoughts on at least a few of the different teams on that one as well. So we'll jump over to the 2-7. That's going to be the Celtics versus either the Magic or the Sixers. Obviously, again, those are your only 2 options, given that it's the 7 seed. I think we're all in pretty much unison agreement here that given this Celtics team and the way they're playing, we're looking at Celtics, and it's just a matter of how hard you want to play them. It's all the way up the ladder on different ways. But Jake, I see that you're talking maybe even playing a sweep. And then, Drew, it looks like you have more matchup-dependent stuff. So, Jake, give us your case on the sweep, and then, Drew, you can kind of round it out there.
Yeah, I really think that this is the worst matchup for the teams that we just talked about, the Sixers and the Magic. I just don't think they play well against the Celtics team. And like we said, the Hornets, the Hornets can't be. Right.
No, it can't be the Hornets.
Yeah.
It's just
the Sixers or the Magic. I just don't think they match up well into the Celtics. So what I'm looking at is whoever plays them, I'm looking at the Celtics to put a little bit of money on sweep or in 5 games.
Yeah, I definitely think from a Sixers perspective, that's kind of where my head goes. I think 4 or 5 games is what I'd be looking for there. If it is the Magic, I think we ended up beating them in 5 games last season and kind of split a couple. I think Celtics were like 2-3 or 3-1 against them. I just think like maybe a look on 2.5. I don't think the Magic can beat them by any means, but like some of the matchups there, you're like still seeing is Tatum like playoff ready with him coming off the injury. I did see that him and Jaylen Brown's numbers to win Eastern Conference Finals MVP and NBA Finals MVP were the exact same, which I thought was insane. But yeah, kind of lean the Magic in that, at least from a series spread perspective.
Yeah, I think what Drew says, I mean, I think he's right. I think it was a 5-game series last year, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember being on the plus 3.5 number on the Magic as well. In general, the Celtics under Missoula have always been the type of team that drop 1 in these types of series. That is kind of the way they've played because of the way their math game works. And again, they shoot a lot of threes, so that usually opens yourself up to 1 game, but they just don't fall. But the way I would play this game is when they're winning these, and especially given all the stats we talked about big favorites, they will be big favorites, especially when they're at home, is I want to play Celtics alts every game. I want to just take my loss on the game that they're going to drop, and I just want to play the max out on the other 3 games. That's how I'm looking at this. I don't really want to mess around with the series. I think maybe sprinkling like an exact outcome, like a 4-1, if you think that, or if you like the sweep like Jake said, I think that makes sense to sprinkle that. But I just want to play the alts, and I want to see this team win a couple of the games by 20 and just climb the ladder. That's probably how I'm going to play this series, especially if it's the Magic, but I think same thing if it's the Sixers. And I think the sweep is actually more live against the Sixers, because if you want to talk about good matchup with the Sixers, I think with the Pistons, I think it's a horrible matchup for the Sixers against the Celtics because of the way the Celtics are going to attack their deficiencies, and they're just going to shoot the threes. The Sixers are not a great perimeter defense. I think this lines up to be an absolute drubbing if it's going to be the Celtics versus the Sixers. So I'm going to be looking for the alt lines more like on a game-to-game basis is more how I would attack this series, because I think there's just a lot of value in climbing the ladder all the way to the top once or twice. All right, well, that'll bring us to Eastern Conference matchup number 3. It's the 3 versus the 6. This is likely going to be 3-seeded Knicks versus 6-seeded Raptors. Again, this one has a little bit more variability depending on what happens with the Raptors. I got nothing here. Honestly, I hate this Knicks team. They piss me off to watch. I hate Karl Anthony Towns. I think he's a pansy. I know that's like a boomer take or whatever. And Jalen Brunson's frustrating to watch too. I hate this team. I get that they're decent. They're going to probably win the series. But you guys take it away. You let me know what your thoughts are. I don't want anything to do with the Knicks team. I'll wait for them to play the Celtics and just enjoy the cinema of the rematch. But like, you guys take it away. Tell me what you're thinking on this series, because I got nothing.
Yeah, I really can't say anything I like about the Raptors. I'm not big on the Knicks either. Like we've talked about, it's kind of one of the teams that is like people have put at the top that could win the East that I've never been high on. I don't think they're a fantastic team, but I think this series, I really just don't have a read on it. Like I could see the Knicks sweeping. I could see it going to 6 or 7. Like I don't really have a read. I think the Knicks will win the series, but I don't have much.
Yeah, I definitely like the Knicks in this series. I don't know what the spread number is going to be, but I see a world where they win in 5 or less games. And I, kind of similar to Cole, will be looking game by game alts for the Knicks. I mean, none of the 5 games that they played against Toronto this season were competitive. All won by more than 16, I think is what I'm seeing. Like just 5 absolute blowouts. So I don't think that the Raptors have a lot of options offensively against the Knicks. I think 4 of these games they were under 100, all 5 under 101. Like this is a team that just could not find ways to create offense against the Knicks. So I'm going to be looking all Knicks in this series.
I think another way to play that too would be maybe some Raptors team total unders, because they have at times gone very cold on offense this year. So I think that's another way to play it too if you don't necessarily want to go Knicks alts, especially because the Knicks defense it can when they try be decent as well. So, and again, matchup wise, I think there's a lot of good stuff to take guys like Scotty Barnes and Ingram out of the picture a little bit. So I could see playing some team total unders. Maybe you escalate the other way and just go a bunch of team total unders as well. Could be a play too. But that's kind of just, at least listening to Drew's points, that might be how I consider playing. But again, not the series I'm really looking forward to the most by any means. And then we'll hop over to the final series in the East. This one's going to be your 4-seeded Cavs versus most likely your 5-seeded Hawks. And this one we all have a lot of agreement on. I'll throw out a stat real quick. In 14 of the last 15 times that the lower seeded team, so in this case the 5 seed, in a 4-5 or a 3-6, but specifically this one a 4-5, have ended up winning the series, it has been a short difference between the overall records of these two teams. It's been 4 wins or less separating them when the lower seeded team wins. So basically saying that it has to be close for the team to have a chance. If everything holds as of today, the Cavs will finish with a 5-game advantage over the Hawks. So that would put them in that position where the Cavs are likely to win the series. So just want to throw that out there. That being said, we all like the Cavs in this series. I'm going to be playing around with different ways to ladder the series spread because I just don't buy this Hawks team. I think they had a late push. They've been really fun, but winning a lot of games in March in the NBA is the most paper tiger thing you can do. So I don't trust this Hawks team. I think Jalen Johnson's fun, but otherwise I just don't trust this Hawks team. I think this Cavs team is legit. I think this Cavs team could be a problem for the Pistons in the next round. So I'm going to be looking for the Cavs to take care of business. This will be your NBA TV series, by the way, that plays every game on NBA TV in the earliest slot of the day. That's just what this series will be. So, if you're looking for it, that's where it is. But what are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the Cavs end up winning this series. The only thing I would look at would be maybe like some series leading Jalen Johnson stats. So I could see a world where he just tries his very hardest to just literally just puts the team on his back to try and win a couple of games. And so maybe point leader in the series, rebound leader in the series for him. That's really the only fun bets I could see on this. Other than that, I would say take the Cavs to win the series.
Down agreed on Cavs, and as I go deeper into it, I'm I feel like this is a weird series where we could see a 6 or 7 game series that nobody has any interest in whatsoever. But I don't know. No firm play for me. I could just see the Cavs kind of playing with their food a little bit and allowing for this Atlanta team to kind of hang in there.
That wouldn't shock me. It would kind of feel like, I think it was literally a 4-5 last year, 2 years ago. It was the Magic Cavaliers.
That's exactly the series I had in mind. Yes. No one asked for this.
No one cared. It went 7 games and nobody even watched game 7. Because again, it was all on NBA TV. So I thought I think you're 100% right. So maybe the over games, I'm sure it'll probably be 5.5 games, a little bit juiced, but maybe play it that way.
Instead of playing the Cavs to 5 games or playing the Cavs, you could do win in 6, win in 7 Cavs is a play I could kind of get interested in.
And then I like Jake's angle too. Shout out the GOAT, Brandon Anderson. He'll probably have some fun ways to play this on the props market too. But I love the idea of playing a rebound leader on Jalen Johnson, given the way he puts up numbers. And this Cavs rebounding is very much split when Allen and Mobley are on the floor. So I kind of like that idea too. But all right, that will kind of clean up the East first round. Those are our opinions. We'll be back next week to break down the way these start, and we'll obviously have our firm matchups by then. So we'll touch back in, and we'll give our thoughts basically after the play-in and the first game of the first round. So obviously we'll check back in and see how we're feeling on all these teams. We're going to hop over to the West. I think the West is actually going to be the first round that is less interesting. Usually in the last few years, it's been the opposite. I think the East might be a little bit more interesting. I think that you could see some quicker series over in the West, at least for the most part, but we'll see how it plays out. Nonetheless, first is the Thunder versus whoever your 8 seed will be. I don't have any strong feeling here. It's the Thunder. You're probably just going to look at taking them sweep, win by exactly 4-1, things like that is kind of how I would play it. Do you guys have any other thoughts here? Is it just Thunder? They're better. This is not really worth your time other than take the Thunder and walk away type thing.
Yeah, I don't think there's much. If you want to bet exact series outcome, I could see them losing a game. It could be fun to bet 4-1 because that the sweep will be juiced, but I really don't see a world where they don't take care of business.
Yeah, unless my Blazers take care of business in that play-in game, I think it's a sweep if they get the Blazers. If it's the Suns, I could see looking at a plus 3.5 series spread for the Suns, but that's probably as far as I'll go.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the Suns at least would have a little bit better of a shot to keep games maybe tighter or win one, like you said. But, other than that, I kind of agree with you guys. It's 1/8 can be kind of a snoozer, especially when you have a team this good. So, yeah, I think we just move on. Number 2, or the second series, is the number 2 seeded Spurs versus either the Suns or the Trailblazers coming in at the 7 seed. Again, we'll see how that plays out. I think we have a little bit of different opinions based on who ends up in that spot. Jake, you're a Spurs guy. That's your team in the West this year. Give me the case for the Spurs.
I think the Spurs are just a very strong team. I think Wemby is the most dominant player in the league, especially on the defensive side of the ball. His presence in the paint is unbelievable. So in this matchup, I really don't see I could see same thing as the Thunder 4-1. I guess I could. This is the one I could see, because they're a younger team. I could see them slip up and lose a couple of games. So maybe taking if it's the Suns, I feel like with the defensive matchups that the Suns bring to the table, I could see them putting up a bigger fight and winning maybe a couple of games. So maybe the series number with the Suns, but I don't know. The Blazers, I just don't see them matching up well against the Spurs. I feel like they would clean up against them.
So I have a couple of interesting thoughts. Number one, if it's the Suns, I don't want to say the Suns are live in the series, but the Suns might be live in the series.
I don't think so.
They played them 4 times this year. The Suns beat them twice and lost by 1 a third time. The Suns might be live in this series. I think defensively, they play Wemby really, really well. They run a lot of almost junk-style defenses on Wemby. And their guards handle the Spurs guard pressure well. What was that, Drew?
I've never heard the term junk style in my life. I might need you to break that one
sorry.
down for me.
It's where it's not conventional. It looks almost gimmicky, where they either throw doubles or your triangle 2 is your box and 1 type crap. Which obviously you're not running that type of stuff in the NBA, but just weird where they collapse down at different times and they really try to force him up and make his touches come above the free throw line, stuff like that. And again, I think they can handle the guard pressure better than some of these other teams. And I just think that it could be that type of situation where a young team with no playoff experience just slips up, drops a game or 2. So I definitely will be looking at the plus number on the Suns. And then I don't think the Trailblazers are live in the series, but if it ends up being the Trailblazers, Wemby at times has struggled with Klingon because Klingon's a freaking monster. So he's one of the few large bodies. I would maybe look at playing some Wemby unders if it ends up being the Blazers. That's the one thing I might consider because it's crazy and the line will be juiced. So that's why I think if you go the other way, especially if you like the Klingon matchup a little bit, that's my only thought. I think the Spurs come out of here, no matter who they play. But again, the Suns might be live if it's the Suns. I'm just throwing it out there.
Wouldn't say live. Now, I agree. I think the could win 2 games. I could see it. I don't know about live.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, trust in the junk defenses. That's what you need to trust in.
Now, I could see. I do like the bet against Wemby for series rebound leader. I kind of like both the matchups there. I can see some value there.
I mean, the plus numbers will be insane. The other crazy thing you could do, and this might just be across the whole playoffs, because he'll be such a if they offer the series leader on blocks in any of these Spurs series, just to take some shots on some other guys, you could try it, but probably a little bit too insane.
Yeah, I was gonna say you would need the game of your life just to even compete. He averages 3 a game.
Yeah, that's probably a little bit too insane. And again, maybe you could do that with Klingon, maybe.
I'd say Klingon's the only name I could think of where that would be a consideration, but I don't know what you'd have to get some disgusto odds for that.
Yeah, no, 100%. It would be freaking nasty. But nonetheless, like I said, the other thing I'll throw out is if you look at those Spurs-Suns matchups, they all, I think 3 out of 4 of them went under. And they're all lower scoring. So maybe look game by game under in those 2. Because again, I think these games could be tight. Even if the Spurs end up winning, I think the spreads will be shorter than people are expecting. So again, maybe look game by game under if you're just looking for a traditional way to play the series too. But I think this series could be more interesting than people are giving it credit for, I guess would be my ultimate takeaway here. So there's a few different ways that we threw out to play that series. So jumping to the last 2 series, these 2 are a little bit more intertwined in the fact that it looks like based on the spreads, it's going to be 3-seed Lakers versus 6-seed Timberwolves, 4-seed Nuggets versus 5-seed Rockets. Keep in mind, this out of any of these possible most likely outcomes would be the one that could be a little bit different, given that the Nuggets are a big dog to the Spurs today. But if the Nuggets win, then that drops the Lakers down. So all it takes is a Nuggets win here. So like again, we're going to operate. There's going to be 3-seed Lakers versus 6-seed Timberwolves. And if we look at this series, if you're a Lakers fan, this has to be horrifying. Drew, you're the Laker fan on the podcast. You go first and tell us what you're thinking.
I mean, if we were healthy, I'd feel pretty good going into this series. We beat them all 3 times this year. I get that they dominated us last year, but yeah, this is like impossible for me to have any strong opinion on. If we don't have Reeves and Luka, we're cooked. Like this team is a joke. Like we're signing Nick Smith Jr. to a 2-way deal this morning. Like if I have to see Bronny James play another NBA minute, I'm going to lose my freaking mind, dude. I know I'm lost in awful coaching's videos that I actually absolutely love, but he's absolutely right. This guy is a donut, and he's playing significant minutes in the NBA. Like, it's sickening to watch this Lakers team right now. If both of those dudes are out, the T-Wolves could sweep the Lakers. But if even just Luka is playing, which I don't think he is, we're getting second opinions in Europe right now, like, I don't see a world where they win this series without Luka. So, yeah, sad times for the Lakers.
Even if Luka plays, I still think like there's just a lot going on. Like hamstring injuries are tough. We know his defensive output is, tough in general, but with a hamstring injury, I don't really see the Lakers pulling it out. One thing I would look is I kind of like Julius Randle to lead the series in rebounds.
Anthony Edwards.
No, so the thing is, Anthony Edwards takes a lot of games off.
Not in the playoffs.
On the playoffs, yeah.
This is a type of series where Randle comes out to get boards. I like the matchup. I don't like who's gonna be on him.
I get it. It all depends on the matchups here. But no, so actually, could I float one other guy for like all the stats leaders? LeBron legacy, like legacy series, like just LeBron on everything. Like that's just kind of, especially if there's injuries. I think it's a LeBron legacy series. I don't know if they win.
I could see it kind of like the Jalen Johnson, where it's like he will do everything in his power, probably still fall short. But the stats will be insane.
And yeah, would LeBron love nothing more than obviously I think he wants to win, but like would he love nothing more than both Reeves and Luka to be out, and he just puts up like a vintage stat line as like his final look what I did at my age type of stat line, like in a valiant loss. Like that's so LeBron. It's so LeBron. I could see it happening. So like maybe look at that type of stuff. But again, that's going to be somewhat injury dependent, because I think your theory is really good if you get a fully healthy Lakers, because Luka will be the favorite in nearly every category, including rebounding. He'll be up there. So I think your Randall take is great if it's a fully healthy long series, because the longer it goes on, the better chances you have of, like, again, Luka having a bad game or getting injured or something like that. So
also, I could see the Ant look for, even if Luka plays, see the Ant look for points leader in the series, because like you said, LeBron might, try and like put in his last effort, take away from some of Luka's points. And obviously Luka's going to be the chalkiest of all of them. And like you said, Ant comes out to play in the playoffs. I could see the points look.
Yeah, I think Ant assist too would be another one that I would look at, because obviously Luka would be such a heavy favorite, and even I could see LeBron being favored too. I think there's going to be ways to fade the Lakers players in their situation, and then obviously depending on what the injury looks like, I think there's going to be opportunities no matter what. I think I'm going to lean the Timberwolves pretty much no matter what, unless like magically it's like a clean bill of health for the Lakers. But I don't like Drew said, I just don't see that being the case. Especially if you're the Lakers, do you even want to rush Luka back? Like, you can't win the title. Do you want to rush him back and risk a Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton situation? Like, no, you really don't.
Sorry, I was looking up Ant's rebounding averages between regular season and playoffs. So regular season over his career, he's pretty much at 5 rebounds a game. The last 2 years in the playoffs, he's been 8 and 7 per game. So there's a different switch flipped in the playoffs from a rebounding perspective. So I think that both are are decent looks for rebound leaders in this series.
Yeah, I don't usually buy into the the dog mode flips the switch bullshit. It's real with him. Like, he does coast in the regular season on everything but scoring, and then you get to the playoffs and that dude wants to end people. So like I believe in it.
Coasting everywhere but the bedroom.
All right, well, we'll jump into
What'd you
those
say?
who know.
You don't want to know.
What did you say?
I said he coasted everywhere but
It was
the
a joke
bedroom.
about how many kids he has. All right, well, we'll take that. No, we should have ended on that series. I just went in numerical order. We should have ended on that series. But the last series, what is most likely looking like it's going to be the Nuggets versus the Rockets. I can't get there on the Rockets, but I will say my take is I think this is going to be a long series. If you look at the way the Nuggets played most of the playoffs last year, like, their series were long, drag out. They have to win by the skin of the teeth, let Jokic be Jokic, let Murray be Murray type games. If you look at the way they played each other during the regular season, the Rockets beat them once, and then they lost 2 of their games by 3 points. So I think it's going to be a close, tight series. I think the Rockets can take a game or two. I'm going to be looking at series over games because, again, I'd like to make the case that the Rockets can be live in this series. And it wouldn't surprise me to see the Rockets win. They're a good team. And I think they have some matchups they can take advantage of. It's just you got to trust Jokic in these types of series. But that's the way I'm going to look at this. I don't really lean aside. I would probably lean Rockets, but really not. I know you guys are both high on the Nuggets, or at least would look at the Nuggets in this situation. So am I crazy for thinking this? Or do you guys think it's just going to be the Nuggets find ways to win close games?
I agree with the take. I think the Rockets can pose problems. I think they have a lot of talent across the board. I actually think it's not going to be the close game theory. I think if the Rockets take it, like, I think it's going to be blowouts. It's like either Jokic and Murray show up to play and they just blow them out, or they kind of have an off night and the Rockets will win by, like, they're a very streaky team like that. Especially this year, like, the Nuggets have literally lost by double digits to, like, some average teams, but then will blow out a team. So I think it's more of that. Like, if you're looking at it, look at some alts on the Nuggets if you think they're going to win in certain spots, and look at some money lines on the Rockets if you think they're going to win in spots.
Yeah, I don't mind that look.
Cover.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't mind that look. I lean Nuggets here. Maybe 5-6 games is kind of what I'm thinking, and I've not really bought into this Rockets team from the second they traded for Durant. I think it's so much of the offensive, like, workload is put on him and Sengun to kind of dictate things, and I just think that this is not the greatest of matchups for the Rockets. But yeah, no like firm bets that I'm going with here.
So I think Jake is onto something with the way to play the blowout. I mean, that's kind of how the Nuggets played the playoffs last year. I mean, even in the OKC series, it's like they won 3 grinders, and then I think one of the OKC wins was close. The other 3 were blowouts. Like, OKC pummeled them, because you're right that at a certain point they kind of just pack it in and they know that, okay, it's just not our night. Let's limit Jokic's minutes, keep him healthy, that type of thing. So I don't hate that. The scary part about that is obviously the Thunder have the ability to just blitz teams. Like, this Rockets team isn't quite that. But if you get a good shooting night out of Durant, or you get some of the contributors, like you get Sengun playing well, and you get Thompson hitting his shots, which, I mean, he's not a great shooter, but like they have pieces. Jabari can step up at times too for the Rockets. So, like, there could be paths where, like, you see them on that night, especially, like, let's say it's like a game 3 situation. Back in Houston, where maybe the Nuggets are up 2-0. Like, you could see some situations right there where maybe you play the Rockets in those types of situations. Like game 1 in Denver, you're probably going to lean more towards Denver. So, like, I could see some valid points there from Jake that it could be that way. And that would also play into the handicap of it being a long series, that it's just going to be, there are times where the Nuggets are totally okay playing, and they proved it last year. They're okay playing 7-game series every round. Like, that's just something they're okay with because they like their chances with their guy.
Amen Thompson can't throw it in the ocean is what you meant to say. That dude, the fact that he's,
I was going to say,
he needs to be, like, left alone if he's going to stand on the perimeter ever, because she could shoot it about as well as I can shoot it. So yeah, tired of seeing teams, like, pretend like that guy has any ability to shoot the 3.
Yeah, that is like the one struggle with the Rockets is they just are not a great 3-point shooting team, and it's just tough to beat a team with superstars without being able to just, take giant chunks away from them or like build bigger leads. And so that is the one thing the Rockets do struggle with in this matchup. Also back to like we've been talking about series leaders, sadly, there's not really anybody you can take in this. Like, you can't bet against Jokic, I don't think. I've looked at, I don't think Sengun can do it.
It's Sengun, dude. Are you crazy? That guy is a numbers monster.
Jokic is a numbers god.
Yeah,
Sengun is
obviously,
like
but you're
averages
gonna
like
lay
9
the
to
chalk
10.
on all those?
No, I'm gonna stay away. You can't take anybody. If Jokic wants to show up to play, he'll average a triple-double.
I think on the rebounds, Sengun is definitely live. I think that you could find multiple players where assists could be live, like especially if you get a couple games where the Nuggets don't hit their shots.
What?
Let's just look at the tear, man. Jokic
I know
has
it's
been on a
insane, but I'm talking like
tear.
you're talking like those are markets where there's absolutely potentials to throw some darts. Like why wouldn't you?
Depends on the number.
They're going to be long. Yeah, it's Jokic. Like, you want to talk about the one guy, I'd absolutely be comfortable. Like, that number's so long, it's like you can throw couch change and throw the dart. Like, you absolutely have to find some options.
I guess Sengun averaged 12
see.
rebounds
See
a
what the numbers
game
are.
in the one series they played last year. That's all the only thing I'll say.
It's not crazy. Yeah, he'll be the number 2 choice, but it's like,
Jokic could also
I mean,
get
if
hurt.
Jokic is gonna
I
be that
guess.
heavy of a favorite,
I don't know.
I would guess. You can't make the problem is you can't make a case for points for anybody else. Like that would be the place I'd like to, like if you could like make Jokic a passer. Like, but
Durant?
but no, Durant's like just not at that volume anymore. I don't know. I'll probably take some shots, but again, maybe the number won't be good enough on Sengun. We'll see. But that I would absolutely at least be willing to try and take a shot or two on one of the categories. But yeah, I mean, it's you're right. It's Jokic. Like, of course, but we'll see how it plays out.
I really wish it wasn't the Nuggets, because like I feel like Thompson would be a really good underdog to throw. He averages a ridiculous amount of rebounds, and if it just wasn't against Jokic, then I would definitely think he's live. Like he has
I think-
multiple like 10, 11, 12 rebound games. For
I
a
think
guard.
if the Nuggets win today, and this isn't this like, and we get Lakers Rockets, I love that look. Love that look.
For sure. Well, he'll probably be favored. Sengun would probably be favored to lead the series in rebounds.
No, he's talking about
No,
Thompson.
Thompson. Okay,
'Cause
sorry.
Because Thompson's very long odds, and he is a grinder. That guy gets boards for days.
That's because he needs
Yeah,
to stay
against those
within
Lakers.
3 feet of the rim in order to make a difference.
Yeah, against those Lakers guards, I would love Thompson look. So again, there. I guess there's a little tidbit. If it does not end up being Nuggets versus Rockets, there's your little tidbit on a Lakers Rockets matchup. But all right, I guess one final thing on any of these series. Does anyone have one final thought, one note that we missed? Anything else you want to point out? Any theoreticals that we should be looking for? Do you think we kind of summed it up there before we kind of close everything out?
Talked about the Brown Tatum odds for Eastern Conference MVP, Finals MVP. I just think Brown's being undervalued a bit. I think the Celtics are the best team in the East, and I don't really see a path for them to lose. You assume they get this either the Sixers, Magic in the first round. We talked about that. Don't really see them losing there. You assume they get the Knicks maybe in round 2. So I don't know. I think I don't know. I don't know what their odds are to win the East in front of me, but I know they're less than. I think Brown was sitting at like plus 400 something to win Eastern Conference MVP.
Yeah, and I mean he won it when Tatum played a fully healthy season, and there was a narrative going in. So I can absolutely see that narrative continuing. Plus, it would just be funny to see him win it again, and then he could say he has 2 of them where Tatum has none, and I think that could be funny. So I think that's a legitimate one. I think the other thing you should look at too, if you're talking about awards, if you think there's a path for the Thunder to lose, you should also look at MVP on the teams you think that can be the team that beats them. So like if you think the Nuggets are live to beat them in the second round, you should be betting Jokic to win Western Conference MVP. If you like the Spurs to come out, you should be absolutely looking at Wemby. And it'd be a much longer shot, but if you think the Lakers are healthy, I think Luka fits that bill too. If you think the Lakers could go on a run, that'd be the that'd be the crazier one to go with. But I think that's the other thing too, is if you think that, because obviously if it's the Thunder, it's Shea. Like, he's just way outclassing the rest of his team. So like, there's no real value on taking anyone else on his team. But if you do think the Thunder lose, I think that absolutely applies to the West as well. I mean, yeah, if you like the Timberwolves, I don't like the Timberwolves to go on a run, but like that would theoretically fit the bill.
Yeah, Wemby is 320. Jokic is plus 500. Obviously, Shea is minus 125 because they're the most likely to win.
This is Finals MVP, right?
This is Western Conference.
Wouldn't you? Would you not just take Finals MVP for anybody you think has a chance to win in the West?
So the thing
how do you like their matchup with the Celtics?
I was gonna say we get into this later, but I actually think the Celtics are live if they make it to the final. Like I think that's not going to be an easy series.
Then maybe you just take Brown to win NBA Finals MVP. Like I did it with the thinking that
I think you ladder him.
The Thunder have, I wouldn't say no chance, but are a sizable favorite over the Celtics in the finals. Maybe I'm thinking about that incorrectly.
Yeah, they will be. They'll be a decent favorite.
It's actually been kind of crazy. So like it's back to like plus 550, but first, second, the Celtics I think were at like plus like 350 or plus 400 to win the finals. Like there was some fading for a couple weeks on the Thunder, and it's kind of settled back at normal where they're back at plus 120.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason it worked for the Western Conference Finals MVP is because so clearly the two other threats are the Nuggets and the Spurs, and there is so clearly an MVP on each of those teams. Yeah. Like it will not be anyone else. Like there's just no world where it's, unless they get hurt, obviously. But then if those guys get hurt, the teams probably aren't winning. So like that, and maybe even you play both of them. Like if you want to fade the Thunder, maybe that is a way to do it instead of just taking the Spurs and the Nuggets. Like you can look at spreading that out to your portfolio and those prices too, because then it's like, okay, you're looking at a better number. If you can get a Nuggets win and it's like Nuggets Spurs Western Conference Finals and you're sitting on a Wemby at 350 and a Jokic at 500, like you're loving that.
But yeah, back to what Drew was saying, Celtics are plus 145 to win the East, and both of them are plus 370. So if you like Brown or Tatum, that's a look.
That's a crit.
Like the Eastern Conference.
I'd have to do the calculation. What's the implied odds on taking each of the two MVPs versus taking the Celtics?
No, it's still technically would be less, but
I think Brown is the, like, I don't know. Like narrative wise, if Tatum is having a string of good games, like I think that will be the de facto thing that they go with, but I just don't see that playing out. I think Brown is their guy. Like for them to have the same odds is kind of crazy to me. Like taking Brown solo is how I would go about that.
No, I think that is the optimal strategy for sure if you're looking at the Celtics MVP thing. And I'll throw it out there again. If you are a Pistons person, I have been a Pistons person. I see all the validation for the Celtics. I absolutely think Cade Cunningham, Eastern Conference Finals MVP, could be worth it too, because he also could have the story if he comes back healthy. So I think that's a world too, where if you want to go in. And the other thing is, if you're a Cavaliers guy, Donovan Mitchell, same story. He'll have I think he'll have the better stats than Harden. So it's like I could see that being a play too. Again, basically the summation of this whole thought. Donovan Mitchell.
They're not getting out of the first round. Maybe we never know.
They're getting left in NBA TV. Yeah. Nonetheless, basically the summation of the thought there is, if you think your team has a chance, maybe look at MVP as a better way to play him.
I think the winner of the Cavs Atlanta series should just also go home to Cancun. Like they should just not move on. Because nobody wants to watch that series.
Play a three-team round robin, Knicks, Celtics, Pistons, and the winner of the round robin just represents the East.
That's correct, yes.
So you're telling me Khan is live for Eastern Conference MVP?
Lonzo Ball, actually, yeah.
All right, I think that's enough of that. I think we have gone on too long with crazy ideas. We might have to have a second crazy ideas episode this week to get through all of these. So, all right, we'll wrap it up here. Obviously, normally we would do the agree board and the head-to-head board. There's a lot going on here, so we're not going to sit here and break down each one of them. If you've listened this far, you heard all of our opinions on all of those. You know where we agree, where we disagree. The ones that I'll highlight are the play-in games. Jake and I like the Suns. Drew likes the Trailblazers in that game. Everybody tends to think if it's Magic Sixers, the Magic probably have the advantage there. We're a little bit split. Drew and I like the Heat. Jake liked the Hornets in the Heat-Hornets game. And we all agreed on the Clippers, Clippers versus Warriors. So those ones we'll highlight because those are the ones that were the most actionable 100% games coming up this week. Otherwise, again, if you got through this far, you see where we're leaning in all the different series and way to play those. So that's that on the agree board and the head-to-head board. Otherwise, again, if you did make it all the way to the end of this video, please make sure to drop a like on this video. We really enjoyed doing this. We hope you guys got a lot of actionable insight or at least a few ideas on ways to attack these series. We'll be back again next week to cover everything that has happened. So we'll be covering all the results of the play-in and the first few games of the NBA playoffs. And we'll be back every week to just keep covering everything that's happened and everything moving forward. So that's kind of what the schedule is going to look like from here on out. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell as well, so you never miss any of those episodes. Check us out on social media at There Will Be Bets on all the different social media platforms to get our daily plays, as well as anything that might change as far as matchups and things like that we want to get our thoughts out on. We'll put it out there, so make sure you stay tuned there as well. Otherwise, this is a big week coming up. We want to wish everybody good luck on their wagers, not only in the NBA, but the MLB, everything else coming down the pipeline here for the next week. It's a big time of year to be a sports fan and a sports gambling fan. So good luck on those wagers, and we appreciate you guys for tuning in with us. We'll be back next week.
Let go.
Let's have a week.